Okay, all right. Hello, welcome once again to Stuff and Things, where I like to talk about stuff and occasionally even things. I'm your good friend Bradley, and today is a very pleasant Sunday Stuff and Things. And on this pleasant Sunday Stuff and Things, we have much stuff and things to talk about, including upcoming videos, things that you can look forward to on Stuff and Things and Stuff and Things Plays. We'll talk a little bit about all these unidentified flying objects that we keep shooting down over North America. I'm gonna have a segment based on a viewer question, and it's one that I get all the time, so I thought I would break it out of the typical Ask Stuff and Things block and put it into its own segment, and it's basically a new pipe-esser question, and they often ask, why can't I taste anything? We'll get to that, and then we will have your questions, comments, and feedback in hashtag #AskStuffandThings. So let's get into it. All right, gang, what can you look forward to on Stuff and Things and Stuff and Things Plays? Well, this coming week, we have a redo of a video that we did 7 years ago about reaming your pipe, how to do it, and why you should do it. And hopefully you guys will find that interesting. I wanted to update it just because the video was so old and I had several people ask me about it. And I'm just curious if there's anything else in that playlist, the old Guide to Pipe-essing playlist that I had years ago. Is there anything that you would like me to revisit? Some of those things I probably don't even completely agree with anymore, so I might look through it myself and just see if there are things that I want to refresh because, you know, we evolve. As we evolve in the hobby as well, we might change our opinions. So I might revisit some of those things on my own. I'm gonna be clanging these rivets against this table over and over. But I'm curious if there's anything that you guys want me to revisit as well. Then, I have something that I think is gonna be kind of fun, and I don't know. Actually, I think it's fairly likely that most of you will be interested in this as well, but I have a scale model coming. I just said that really oddly. Model. Why can't I say that word properly? A scale model. I don't know what's going on, but something's happening in my throat. I think you know what I mean. A scale, M-O-D-E-L, is on its way. And I wanted to do an unboxing because I think it's kind of cool. And I think you guys might think it's kind of cool as well. So check that out. That'll be not this coming week, but the week after. Then we have Old Ironsides by Dan Tees. We will be doing a first impressions video on that. That was highly requested as well. And then of course, every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday on Stuff and Things Plays, we have the Elden Ring series continuing for the foreseeable future. Seems like maybe we're getting close to the end. I'm not sure. I just got the Metroid Prime remaster on Switch. I'd kind of like to play that on the channel, but I don't think I will. I shouldn't have mentioned that because now some of you will want me to play it on the channel, but I'd like to just play it myself, so I think I probably will. But I have some other good games in the queue that I think we can jump into. And then of course, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild Tears of the Kingdom is coming out in May, so we're probably gonna have to play that on the channel. Lots of good stuff coming up. Okay. What the heck is going on with all these balloons over North America? Or are they balloons over North America? This started a couple weeks ago, as most of you know, I am sure, with the Chinese spy balloon, quote, and I'm not using that because I don't think it's actually a spy balloon, it's just that China keeps claiming that it is, or it was, a weather balloon, which was such a ridiculously blatant thing for China to have done that it's almost, I'm not gonna say cool, it's just kind of, it's slightly shocking that they would do that. And of course they're claiming that the US has spy balloons all over China. I sort of doubt that's the case. I think for the most part, we're gonna rely on spy satellites. Obviously, we're trying to spy on China. I think most people should be trying to spy on China because China is certainly trying to spy on everyone else. And again, when I'm saying China, I mean the Communist Party of China, not the Chinese people, not the country as a concept, but the Chinese Communist Party, which I am not a fan of, and I don't think most people should be a fan of, considering all the horrible things that they do. But the fact that they would just brazenly float this spy balloon over, and it makes me think, obviously, this must have happened before. And there are all sorts of theories as to why the US is now suddenly noticing all these incursions into its airspace, and Canada as well, because perhaps before we weren't looking for anything that slow moving or that size at that height. And now that we are, we're finding all these other things. I still haven't found any concrete information about what the other 3 objects were that we shot down over, I think 1 was over Canada and 2 over North America. I don't think they're aliens. I don't think they're UFOs. I mean, they are UFOs because they're unidentified, but I don't think they're aliens. I just think probably private industry or private citizens putting things up there. I don't know what for, maybe weather related, maybe who knows. It's just strange. And I'm very curious to hear more about them. One of the cool things that I've noticed is that I think in 3 of the 4 situations, the object was shot down by an F-22 fighter jet. And I've always thought those were so cool. When I was a kid, like, man, this must have been in 1990 or something. I remember the YF-22, the, I guess, experimental version of it, or the proof of concept version of the F-22. I somehow knew about that as a child. It's always weird because I think back, like, how did we know anything before the internet? Obviously we did. We found things out, and I'm not sure where I found out or where I heard about the YF-22, but I remember I got a little diecast toy of the YF-22, and I always thought it looked so cool. Because I always liked the F-15. Sorry, if any of you don't care about fighter jets, I think most little kids at one point in their life will be into airplanes and fighter jets. I certainly was when I was like in middle school. But I always liked the F-15. I thought it was a really cool looking plane. And then I guess like Starscream from Transformers was patterned after an F-15. And then of course the F-14 was amazing too. There's Top Gun, there was Robotech patterned after the F-14. Anyway, the F-22 was rumored. I got that little die-cast model and I remember thinking, oh, this is the coolest plane ever. It's gonna be the coolest plane ever. It's a stealth fighter jet. And then I remember hearing a little more about it, and I guess I just kind of stopped thinking about it. And then recently I kept hearing F-22 mentioned over and over as it was the jet that was shooting down these objects. So I went and did some research and found out that we did this huge program to develop this amazing air superiority stealth fighter, the F-22, and then we just cut the program off and we only have like 150 of them or something, or I think 186 were made and fewer than that are actually in service now. And now we're pushing everything into the F-35. I don't know, fighter jet stuff, but I kind of went down a rabbit hole with this recently. But yeah, the F-22, unidentified flying objects, shooting things down. Weird, what's going on? I don't know. I don't know. All right, next, we have a question, and this is just a representative question because I've been getting this question a lot. And it is from F6F Helldweller. I'm a fairly new pipe esser, and I'm having quite a bit of trouble tasting the tea. I don't get any flavor whenever I draw the S in my mouth. Sorry. Do you have any advice? Perhaps drawing the tea, which I've never done. So this is an interesting question, and like I said, I've gotten it several times from several different people, and it seems to be a common complaint or stumbling block for people who are new to pipe essing, where they claim that they can't taste anything. And so I tried to cast my mind back to when I very first tried a pipe, and I guess it was when I was 18, I guess. And at the time, it was a very gloopy, aromatic blend. I think it was some sort of apple vanilla or vanilla apple blend. And I certainly could taste it back then, even though it was probably way too wet. And even though I'm sure my mechanics were bad, I probably wasn't packing it properly or doing anything properly, I could definitely taste it. So I'm wondering exactly what's going on here. And a lot of people, like I said, have had the same complaint. I have a couple theories. First of all, it's really hard to say without knowing what you are essing it in, what the blend actually is, the moisture content, or if it's too dry, if it's too wet. whether you're trying to use a filter. There are all sorts of different variables that I just don't know unless somebody follows up, unless F6F Helldweller follows up with this question. They did mention they'd never dried the tea before. Depends on how wet it was to begin with. You know, I don't know if you need to dry the tea. One thing I will say, even though I could taste that aromatic that I tried way back when I was 18 years old, it certainly didn't taste good, and I'm sure it probably would have tasted a bit better if I had dried it out, because if you have a very wet blend, and especially a blend that is very heavily topped, like a full aromatic will be, if it is too wet, it's gloopy already because it's an aromatic, and then you burn it, you're gonna get a very high steam proportion. A lot of the smoke is actually going to be steam, and the steam does not have the flavor that the smoke has. So if you have it burning really hot, it's too wet, it's just steaming through the stem, it's possible that you're not tasting much because that is what's going on. And for me, that's my best guess. I can't really think of too many other things that would mean that you just don't taste it at all. I'm curious if anyone else has any feedback or suggestions that they can put in the comment section below to help out. F6F Helldweller. But yeah, that's my best guess, Helldweller. But if you'd like to follow up, let me know what you have been trying, what you're trying it in, and what the moisture content was like. I might be able to have a better idea of what's going on. And now, gang, since we actually just answered a question, we might as well jump right into hashtag askstuffandthings. Remember, if you have a question for me and you would like it answered on the Sunday Stuff and Things, tweet at SATBradley with the hashtag askstuffandthings, and I will do my best to answer you. You can also write to me via Patreon and go to the front of the line. You can try a super thanks below this video, jump to the front of the line, or just leave me a comment, a question, some feedback on my YouTube videos. I read through every single one of them, and I try to pick out good comments and questions and feedback from there. So, this week, we will start out via YouTube, and this is Roger Stray Dog, who says, "Thanks for answering my question from last week. A few follow-up questions. Which philosopher did you find most enlightening? Which one is overrated? What philosophic work writing would you most recommend? Do you still read philosophy, or is it just in your background mental toolbox as a hidden thing?" Thank you for the follow-up, Roger Stray Dog. I don't want to disappoint you or anything, but it was a very long time ago that I was majoring in philosophy, and I remember some things that I read for sure. I think at the time, especially because I was 20, 21 years old, I was attracted to, the absurdists, Camus, stuff like that, probably a bit to the nihilists. Things have changed since then, obviously. I still enjoy Camus. I like his work quite a bit. The myth of Sisyphus was huge for me when I was in college. I found that to be a very influential work for me, and it really spoke to me personally. I can't remember a ton. I remember reading The Problem of the Criterion was something that we had to write an essay on. I remember reading quite a bit of Hume. But yeah, it's just kind of, I'm assuming it is still there sort of in the background of my mind. I think if you were to ask me to try to pick an overriding philosophical framework by which I live my life, I don't think I could. I would never be able to say, oh, I'm a realist, or I'm a pragmatist, or I'm a stoic, or, anything like that. I don't just glom on to one particular philosophical outlook for sure. I enjoyed the intellectual exercise of debating certain philosophical ideas. But even then, when I was 20 or 21, I often felt that these things were kind of pointless. And it's hard for me to say this without probably offending somebody, and I don't really mean that they are valueless. I just mean that, for the most part, the contemplation of philosophical ideas is kind of a luxury, and in a more primitive world, when you're concerned mostly with survival, these more existential questions don't really occur to you very often, I don't think. And so, even though it is a fun exercise, it's a fun intellectual exercise to think about philosophy and various disciplines and ideas. At the end of the day, how much is that going to contribute to your own happiness? I'm not sure. It's still fun, it's a good exercise, and it's a good intellectual pursuit, I think. But I don't know. It's interesting. It's been too long for me to give you, a chapter and verse of certain things that I was really into. I haven't read any philosophical works for a while. I'm trying to think of anything that I have read recently, and I can't really. I mostly read fiction and history. Haven't read a lot of philosophy lately. Thank you for the question. Next, from Magnus von Braun. Hi, Bradley. Is there word that Savinelli cannot make the Punto Oro Corallos anymore? I've not seen them anywhere nowadays. I think I talked about this years ago, and I haven't checked for any updates since I did, but when I had my Corallo di Mare, my Savinelli, that I got as an estate pipe, I was pretty sure that even back then, and that was probably 6 or 7 years ago, that I had heard that whichever craftspeople were making those pipes were no longer with Savinelli, either because they had retired or died. And so they didn't feel as though they could continue the Punto Oro Corallo line. And then I thought I had heard maybe that they were still doing the Capri Briar, which is a similar kind of finish, but that the Corallo, since it was a virgin pipe, there was no finish on it whatsoever. It had to be, these particular craftspeople making the pipe. So as far as I know, it's been years since they have made those, and I don't think they're ever going to make them anymore. Could be wrong, unless there's newer information. Next, we have some feedback from last week's Sunday Stuff and Things. This is from Hollywood. Not the city, but a person with the name Hollywood as their username on YouTube. When I was in high school, and I guess Hollywood isn't even a city anyway, unless you mean West Hollywood. When I was in high school, I was in an independent film produced by Terrence Malick. Very cool. It's called The Better Angels, a film about the childhood of Abraham Lincoln and a few others, but it was a privilege to work with such a renowned director, producer, and an outstanding cast and crew. Yeah, I love Terrence Malick. Badlands, was it Kingdom of Heaven? Is that the one with Sissy Spacek? And yeah, Badlands, Kingdom of Heaven. It's not Kingdom of Heaven. What is it called? God damn it. No, Badlands is with Sissy Spacek. I'm going to confuse all these. And then what's the one with Richard Gere? I can't remember. Let me know in the comments below. But The Thin Red Line, lots of good stuff. Terrence Malick is great. But yeah, very cool if you had a chance to work with him. I've never heard of Better Angels, but I guess since he was a producer and not the director, I wouldn't have heard of it. I mean, obviously I've heard of pretty much every Terrence Malick film, but very cool. Next, from Josh Stivers, Cool Man. I hope the filming project yielded some good results. So I was talking about the fact that my fiance Diamond and I were working on a little short film last weekend. Still working on that. The editing is going to take a long time. Cool Man. I hope the filming project yielded some good results. On the topic of learning lead guitar, check out Rick Beato's channel on YouTube. Huge free resource of college-level theory, inspiring guitar-related content, and interviews. Best I've ever seen. I definitely agree on Bethesda. They're on the back foot for sure lately, and Starfield needs to be a hit. Guess we'll see. Anyway, love the content. Thank you, sir. And yes, Rick Beato, I've definitely watched some of his videos on YouTube. Some of his theory videos are just so advanced that they don't really help me very much. But yeah, I appreciate his content. It's very cool. And then, yes, Bethesda GameWorks or Bethesda Softworks or whatever the hell they are called. Like I said last week, I will believe it when I see it. If they come out with a game and it is actually really good and well reviewed, I may give it a try. But after what they have put out recently, I don't have my hopes up. This is from Chris Portislander. Looking forward to the Dan T video. It's one of the brands I can source locally here in Japan without having to deal with import customs. Thank you, Chris. And this is interesting to me because I have heard from various people in Japan two completely opposite things. One, that they can get almost all the blends and more that we can get in the US. But I have also heard, no, that is not the case. It is very hard to get almost anything in Japan. So I would like an answer from someone living in Japan. Is it easy or difficult to get blends that we can get in the US and in Europe? I'd like to know. Next, from Tom Brown. Well, the voiceover gig sounds great. Until you began mentioning your work in construction, I was sure you had a job in radio. Does anyone have a job in radio anymore? You've got it, man. And many years ago, I spent time as a DJ at a couple of stations, so I know something about the trade. Cool. As for the Dan T line, that series of blends used to be sold under the CAO label. Same names, same yeah, I'd be a great voice actor. I can't read. Same tin art. Try Midnight Ride. Try Midnight Ride. It used to be really good. In English, that is more Perique than Latakia accented. Unique. Thanks, Tom. Tom always has really cool information about the olden days of the pipe hobby. Different companies that used to produce different blends. Very worth checking out the comments that he has left on my videos. And finally, for the guitar update that I posted last Wednesday that you should check out if you haven't, John Jones says, fantastic. Keep it up and update us in 6 months or when you finish the solo course. And yes, I do plan on doing that for sure. Once I finish the Everybody Can Play Guitar lead course, or is it called solos? Beginner solos? Something like that. I will update you all. And Jake Nelson says, after playing for almost 30 years, I can say, if you do want to lower the guitar, meaning where you're holding it on your body when you're standing up, which is advantageous for pick hand, palm muting, etc., then try angling the neck more upwards. If you pay attention to someone like Slash from Guns N' Roses, you'll notice the body of the guitar is down near his groin, but that the headstock is up almost level with his left shoulder. Playing this way helps with the wrist angle on your fret hand. Give it a try. And that's definitely true. I've noticed that. You'll see him like playing up here, and he's picking down here. You see that with like Jimmy Page and stuff too, because it would be impossible to play lead leaning all the way down, as far down as they have their guitars. You have to angle that neck up. Gang, oh, that reminds me, I'm wearing this. This is a Levi's trucker jacket, and this will be the next thing. Man, these buttons are loud when they hit the table. This will be the next item in the Timeless Style series. So look forward to that in a month or so. We'll see. These videos take a long time to make, and so it's not easy to fit them in. But you guys were wondering what the next Timeless Style video, it will be the Levi's trucker jacket. All right, gang, thank you so much for that feedback. Please keep it coming in. It is much appreciated. But now, it is time for the very best part of the show, and that is where we thank our Patreon supporters. Remember, if you would like to support the channels on Patreon, there is a link in the description below, and it is much appreciated. It helps pay for the fancy camera that is filming this video, the lights that are shining upon me, special blends for review, and other items that I can show you on the channel. And every week, we like to thank those who support the channels at $25 or more a month. People like Kirk Crompton, Glenn Dunnington, Jason Buckner, Gloria Phillips, MDoftheNorth, David Gaudreau, Nick Papageorgio, John Tice, and Finn O'Hagan. And of course, the Maniac, the people or person who support the channels at $100 a month. Person like Bob Magee, stolid and dependable. And of course, we will never forget our dearly departed friend and Hall of Fame member, Peter Straub. Gang, thank you so much for watching. Please stay tuned for the pipe reaming video, the model unboxing. I'm not gonna tell you what it is yet, but it's pretty cool. The old Ironsides first impressions video coming out soon. We will be doing the Timeless Style series video on the Levi's trucker jacket. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday, the Elden Ring series continues. But until next time, until we meet again, I've been your good friend Bradley. You've been the audience. This has been Stuff and Things on a very pleasant Sunday Stuff and Things. I'll see you later.